when anybody is like, this is the way, and that's it, run. Well, hello world, welcome to Raccoon Point Studios. I'm Sean Bombs, and today I want to talk to you about the greatest debate of all time. Never caused drama online at all. Nobody's ever gotten into fistfights over this. Analog versus digital, tube amps versus modelers, nostalgia versus modern, tape versus converters, all that stuff that just, everybody's just kind of casual about. And if you're new to the channel, I usually do like guitar pedals, some pro audio stuff, plugins, and cameras, synthesizers, all that kind of stuff. If you like that kind of stuff, hit the subscribe, hit the like, hit the bell, and we're going to talk about this. I have a few notes. I don't script any of my videos. If you've watched any of them, I'm sure you could tell. Kind of a dipshit. Now, I don't claim to be a fucking expert at anything, okay? I know a little bit about a bunch of stuff. Things I picked up over the years. I'm still learning as I go. I make mistakes on the daily. I have clients come in and sometimes they know something I don't. You know what I mean? It happens. And I think that's a good thing. We always want to learn. You know what I'm saying? But today we're talking about these arguments people get online about tube amps versus modelers and all that kind of stuff. And I'm here to say, it doesn't matter. At this point in the game, what the fuck does it matter? You can get good results with whatever you have, okay? If you're trying to create, the main thing is, honestly, is staying in the zone, having fun, getting the idea, staying in the vibe of what you're doing. That is the most important thing. Not the mic placement, not the mic preamp, not the compression settings, not any of that stuff. It all matters. But if you're the creator, if you're not the engineer, but you're kind of doing a little bit of both because you're creating by yourself, the most important thing is your vibe and your what you're trying to accomplish artistically. And I say that because I started off late 80s, early 90s, and with a boombox with 2 tape decks in it, and then another boombox my friend would bring over, and we'd record onto this one and then play it back and record that on the other one while overdubbing. And we're not going to make a gold record with that, but it was fun. So we would have these tapes, and we'd be able to play them for people or whatever, and they would just be fun, and we could get our ideas down and do things you couldn't do back then. And this was before everybody had a computer that they were using for making music. I mean, maybe some people were doing that, but not in my neighborhood. Yeah, there was, I could tell you, not one of my friends on my street had a computer. All right. That was maybe the late 90s people started to do that. But anyway, I digress. So I say that to say this. I moved on to like a 4-track tape machine. I had a little Zoom processor, and then for vocal effects I would sing through guitar pedals. And I mean, we didn't even have loopers unless you had a sampler, and they were expensive. So for me, I had Boss DD5s. I would put 2 of them together, and I would make like 2-second loops. And that was cool for me because that was what back in the day when I used to smoke a lot of that green stuff, and I just would have fun. I would trip out and just make these long, epic, weird loops that go in and out of each other, and I would probably drive people crazy. Some people got it. Some people liked it because it was different at the time. It's kind of like house music, but guitars. You know what I'm saying? Like where it's just ebb and flow of things. And it wasn't necessarily I was trying to write a record that way, but those things that I did created other ideas because I was just like cerebral with it, just like going in and out and spiritual with it or whatever, you know what I mean? Like just flowing with it. And then sometimes parts would catch me out of all that, and that would make it into a song that I was writing with my band or something, And so these are things I'm talking about because no matter where you're at in this journey of audio, music, art, band, whatever, singing, whatever your thing is, don't let the gear get in the way of making something, because people make music with iPads, iPhones, Androids, whatever. I say that to say this: don't let the lack of gear get in the way of you creating something. Like when I go on vacation with my family, or if I go to NAMM or whatever, I always bring my Teenage Engineering KO2 with me. It's a sampler drum machine. I got sounds in there. I want to create. That's the only thing I have. It's like this big. It's not gonna, I'm not bringing my guitar and all this other stuff with me when I travel. It's one little thing, and I get to create and come up with whatever I can with that thing in its confinements. And that's great, because I'm just concentrating on what I'm doing, and I'm playing, and I'm feeling it, and it works great. So that's another thing, and we get into these things with tape versus analog, and at this stage, like, would I like a tape machine? Of course I would. It'd be fun, it's for the fun of it, but what I would like to have to worry about the parts and the upkeep and the cleaning and the calibration all the time, and making sure it's in a room that doesn't get humid in it, or like has temperature regulated all the time, that's another expense. So, if I was, if the music business was what it once was and people are paying for that, then I would. But, it's just it's not economically feasible. Is that the word? But if you can do it, do it. If you have it like that, by all means. So I want to talk about like the modelers and the tube amps and stuff like that. I've been doing these demonstrations on here for about 2 years now, and I started with mic in my amp, and then at some point I got the aux box, and it just makes it easier. And sometimes that's gonna really dictate what you do. Now when I'm recording a record, I might start with the aux box, I might start with a modeler. At some point, when I feel like, all right, I want to do this for real, then I mic stuff, because I'm going to get the sounds of my amps with pushing air in different ways, and not to say that I couldn't record a record using a Tone X or a HX Stomp or any of that stuff. You can, but I just prefer the sound of micing the amps and getting different tones and trying different things, and not having to deal with what can happen at the end of the recording, especially when you're tracking millions of guitars. So if it's a heavy project, I'm going to want to mic an amp, because there's going to be stacked guitars and it's just whatever the modeler is for me personally. When I stack too many guitars and when it's mastering time, some of the frequencies can be a little weird. Tone X has been one of the ones that I really like the most. But, I don't have a strong opinion either way. If I have a option to play a real amp, I'm going to want to play a real amp. But I'm not going to go online and say, you're doing it wrong if you don't play a real amp. That's just like silly mentality. Like, I think today, with the technology moving the way it is, these digital modelers give you the opportunity to create sounds that used to cost a lot more money with a big pedal board, the amp, the blah, blah, blah. Now you have the ability to have similar amps or captures of those amps, and then have effects that might appeal to you. Not everybody's going for these experimental shoegaze post-rock sounds. Some people just want bread and butter sounds, and any of these modelers will do that, and, when I compare them to my amps, then I'm like, oh yeah, I still love my amps. When I don't, and I'm just playing, and they're in the context of whatever else is going on, they're fine, and that's what I just see people just go crazy online over these things, and I'm just like, use whatever you got. If you listen, If Eddie Van Halen was still alive and he was like, oh, here's your 5150 in the box, he's going to make it sound good. He's going to still sound like Eddie Van Halen if he's using a Tonex to do it. He is. It just is, because that's him. The point is to not have hard rules, like music, art, it's all creation. It's all meant to have rules broken and, go far out and come back to things and like try things, experiment. You look at different artists that had monumental records and then a few records that were like, I don't get it, because they were just in their muse. They're just like figuring things out, and then they come out with another record that just happens to blow up and speaks to people because that's where they're at, and that's the beauty of it. You don't have to write a beautiful, perfect record all the time. Like you take chances, you do different things. You can go all acoustic and then the next record go all electronic and then program every single thing and and then go back to organics, whatever. And that's the beauty of where we're at right now. I feel like anybody can do anything if they put their mind to it and they have the talent and the drive. And at the end of the day, that's where it's at. Talent, the drive, and the time and the ability to make it happen, regardless of if it's tape, if it's digital, if it's tube, if it's modular, if it's, if you're trying to cut a vinyl record, if you're just trying to put an MP3 out, what I'm saying. Like if you're just trying to put it out digitally, whatever, the point is to create and not let anything get in the way. Take everything with a grain of salt, what you read online, what you hear other people say, even what I'm saying right now, because at the end of the day, that all that matters is what you are doing with your thing. You're going to learn from others. We have this vast array of knowledge now because of the internet and YouTube and all these other forums that you can get stuff from. But when anybody is like, this is the way and that's it, run. One last thing, we are living in uncertain times, so to buy a bunch of gear at this point is kind of ridiculous. If you think about tariffs, if you think about uncertainty with our economy, financial, job placements, we have masked men on the streets, we have a crazy maniac in the White House, we have maniacs in other countries, we have a handful of billionaires controlling everything. We have corporations just lining the pockets of these people, and it doesn't matter what side of the spectrum you're on. It really doesn't, because it's a top-down freaking problem. And until that is eradicated, we are, in this freaking bubble of uncertainty. So not to put it down or on anything, because that's the whole point of this. Create regardless. I know it's a bad time in the world, and I feel it every fucking day. I wake up every day and go, what did these assholes do now? And what can I do to help my community? And where do I need to be a voice or, a helping hand? And that's where it's at. So we're going to create, we're going to do what we can to help our neighbors, and we're not going to let these assholes dictate what we do with our lives. Okay, so I know I turned this whole thing into that, and that's just where I'm at. I can't sit here and talk about buy this brand new piece of gear that came out at NAMM. It just doesn't work for me. Like, it does not work for me to say, buy a new piece of gear, here's this new product right now, when I wake up every fucking day going, what's going to happen now? All right? So, not to be a downer, I just had to put that out there. But take care of yourself, take care of the people around you, and don't let anybody tell you that you can't do something, because you can. And that's it. That's all I got. I will see you in the next one. Subscribe, hit the like, hit the bell, and boom, bye.